This is my module 1 discussion-based assignment. Okay, this is part 1. So if I were talking as a teenager struggling emotionally, I'd probably bring up depression and peer pressure because that's something a lot of teenagers struggle with. And for depression, it can sometimes feel like you're being constantly overwhelmed or exhausted, even when you know nothing huge is happening. You lose motivation to do anything, and everything sort of loses its color. You know, you'll be going through your day and just, it feels like you're more being acted upon than other things, than you acting on other things. Things you enjoy, you'll stop enjoying them as much. The joy will start to be sapped out of things, and everything will become sort of blah. And for peer pressure, it's just the stress of trying to fit in. It happens all the time where you might not do something without outside pressure, but you have that peer pressure, and so it plants those seeds inside your head, and then you end up doing them. And it's not something that you would want to do or you're comfortable with. And those are two huge, and they often correlate, is that peer pressure can cause depression, or depression can cause peer pressure, because depression causes peer pressure because you don't really have that drive to do anything, so you're just letting other things act on you, and you're just going with the flow. And peer pressure can cause depression because those actions you make that you're not comfortable with can cause harm. And you might fall into a state of depression and like not knowing really who you are, lack of like self-understanding. A real life example of this could be social media. When you see other people posting these perfect pictures, it can, particularly in teenagers, cause depression, because social media is really good at showing just the good parts of people's lives, and then showing everybody that good part. And so when we look at social media and assume that that's just how they live their everyday life, we can feel depressed because we see all the bads in our life, and so it causes that sort of depression. This comparison can lead to sadness, low self-esteem, and then eventually depression. And another example for pressure is pressure from friends to drink, and vape and skip school. It's things like that are like the most common ones. You know, you'll be at a party and, you know, they'll have like jungle juice or something like that. Jungle juice is like fruit punch, so it's like mixed with a bunch of alcohol. But where they'll just have it, and people will be doing it, and you'll be right there with them. And I've had this experience personally where I was out on Halloween. I wasn't even at a party, but we were hanging out at the tennis courts, and this guy drove by, him and his girlfriend was just drinking right out of the bottle. And like, he was drunk, he was talking to us, but no, and he offered us, and we were just talking for a little bit. He was drunk, he thought he knew us, but he didn't really. And he's like, do you guys want to drink? And we all said, like, nah, we're good. And then he pushed, and it was it was not a really cool experience, but it was sort of interesting to know that is how it happens. You know, we're taught since we're kids that, like, yep, they're going to come up to you and they're going to offer you alcohol, and then you're going to say no, and they're going to say, nope, just try it. And you're like, that's bullcrap. But that's actually how it works, you know? But it's a really common thing. Like, he didn't even know us, and he was offering us alcohol, so it's a very common issue. And when it's your friends who are offering you that alcohol or that drug or something like that, it can be even easier to say yes. Because at that point, it's not about the drug, it's about doing it for them. Because, you know, they do it, they're not a bad guy. So, I mean, must be great. And from this perspective, like, when you get into depression, you know, you feel stuck, or when you fall for peer pressure, you feel stuck. It's like, you know something's wrong. You know you did something wrong, but you don't know how to change it. And you don't know, like, who to talk to, what to change, what to do. And so you just keep everything inside. Okay, that's part 1. Okay, now part 2. Looking at the same situation from the perspective of someone giving advice, I'd probably help them identify the problem. Because, you know, the example I gave of social media, I could tell them about that and say, this is probably a big reason why you're feeling so depressed. It's this constant comparison. You're comparing everyone's highs to your complete life, and that's never going to bring you happiness. So what they can do is maybe get off social media more. I think if you're having these issues where you're like, how do I say this? Where you're being dragged down because of social media, then get rid of it. That's the same with anything. If you're being dragged down by anything, get rid of it. Like, I think even with your friends, like going into the peer pressure. If your friends are influencing you into doing things that you know you should not be doing, then you first need to talk to them and say, I don't want to do that. And if they keep it going, then you drop them. It's everything in your life is it making me feel better or is it making me feel worse? And so that's a big thing, but it's hard, identifying that problem, identifying what is making me feel so depressed, and what do I need to do to stop it. Then I'd then help them look at their options, because they could keep doing what they're doing, or they could make more changes to help themselves. Some examples are like limiting social media, setting boundaries with friends, and like talking to a trusted adult, talking to, like, if it's not your parents, talk to, I don't know, a teacher you're close with, a counselor, someone like that, someone you can trust and that you can talk through things without incurring too much judgment. And that's a big suggestion for people dealing with depression. I've dealt with depression in the past, and it doesn't really get better. It's just so impossibly hard to recover from depression on your own. You need that foundation and that security and those people who are there for you to really make a big difference. I think talking things out really helps you, like, identify the problem and identify what's really so wrong. When I was depressed a couple of years back, it was due to football. I just felt like I wasn't performing as good as I should be, and I felt like I was letting my team down. And then because of that, I was overcommitting and I was dropping on other things, and then it just sort of caused my life to, I don't know, fall apart. It just felt out of balance. But I talked through it with my parents, and we got it right back on track, and kept it going. And we fixed it, There were some bumps along the road, but we fixed it. It's possible, but I wouldn't have been able to do that without the help of other people and that security. Another thing is making small daily changes. This might be a bad metaphor, but it's like, how do you boil a frog? And it's like by degrees, just turning it up bit by bit. And it's the same thing, like changing one thing, just one tiny little thing at a time. Every day you change one thing, and eventually you made a big change. And so it's things like limiting social media and having those conversations with your friends, or just like even if that's too big of a change, just weaning off of it. Like going and doing something, even if you don't really feel it quite yet, just getting back into the habit of going and doing something helps so much. Spending less time online is a big one. Social media is a big cause of depression, and so limiting the amount of time you spend online and the amount of time you're wasting online, even scrolling through TikTok, something like that, wastes so much time, and it just makes you feel like useless. Getting more sleep's a big one, and doing relaxing activities. So something, the symptom of depression is just falling away from things you once enjoyed, Like, I love playing piano, and I never did when I was depressed. I just didn't have the energy. I couldn't do it. But getting back into things, trying to get back to how they were when they were normal, was a big help for me. And if you choose not to make any changes, things might get worse. Depression can deepen and grades can drop, your relationships will suffer, and it's just going to get worse from there. So it's so important that you make those changes to get better, because if you just ignore the problems, they're not going to go away. They're just going to deepen. It's like if you got, it's another metaphor, but if you get shot and you just say, oh no, I'm not shot, I'm okay, I'm just going to ignore it, the wound's going to fester, it's going to get worse, and it's going to cause a bigger problem than it ever once was. So it's very important to, get help. But on the positive side, making changes is a serious way you can help yourself. It can help your confidence, it can lessen stress, it can, help your relationships, and you'll just feel more in control of yourself. Some of my strongest friendships are from the people who were there for me when I was at my lowest. Reaching out to other people when you're at your lowest really just shows how good of a friend they are and how much they actually care about you. And so making those small changes, reaching out to people when you're depressed or when you have peer pressure and you just feel hopeless and like you messed up, it's so important to reach out to other people, because it can make a difference, and those tiny changes really create a big improvement over time.